A wounded animal doesn't know the difference between a hand that is trying to hurt it and a hand that is trying to help it. It only knows something is reaching for it. It's a threat, so it bites. Ears back, eyes narrow. Every part of it locked on defend, even against the one thing that could actually save it. Men do this too. Most of us just call it strength. It isn't. I'm Stephen Rohde. This is Course Correction. Before we start, go back to that pattern you named when we began this conversation. You now know what it is, and you know where it came from, a threatening environment. Here's today's question. What did you build to survive that environment? But here's the thing about that word build. It was never a conscious act. No one handed you a design and no one gave you instructions. You adapted to the situation in the moment because you had to, because that's how we're all wired to survive. If you grew up inside that environment, there was never a version of you standing outside of it. It's all you knew. So whatever came to mind when I asked the question, that wasn't something you built on purpose. It's what formed around you, out of necessity, without your awareness. You call it just who I am, but you never knew it had formed at all. Hold that concept. We'll come back to it because what formed around you is exactly where we're going. Last time, we named the threatening environment that made all of this necessary. Today, we look at what was built to survive it. I am going to frame today's discussion with a different spin on Pavlov's dog experiment. The way it was designed was, the bell rings and the dog gets fed. We are going to flip that experiment to demonstrate the opposite response. In this experiment, when the bell rings, the food gets taken away instead. Food is a dog's number one survival need. Therefore, taking it away represents a small or large, consistent threat over and over. If you do that enough times, then the dog stops drooling with anticipation. Instead, it tenses and it growls, hackles up, ready to defend, even with someone it loves, even with someone who's never hurt it. Where in your life do you react out of instinctual protectiveness, even with someone you love? Love doesn't turn this reflex off. It never will. We are designed to protect ourselves. When I think of everything I've formed to protect myself, it all comes down to the most effective and sustainable form I could develop: control. When I say control, I'm talking about the different ways I restrict people from getting too close to me. In today's world, this is easier to do than ever because I can monitor my voicemail, my email, my text, my phone, and my front door. I can choose who, how, and when I interact with people. I can create intricate tests and mazes for people to navigate in order for them to prove their worthiness to me. I have created layers upon layers between me and anyone who might possibly hurt me. Remember a story I shared a few episodes ago about a room Allie and I were painting after we moved in together and letting go of needing it done my way? Well, there's more to that story than I told you then, and I think it will help you see how control has shown up in my life. At the time of painting that room, Allie and I had been together for over 3 years. But about a year prior to that, we had a conversation about the future of our relationship. Allie wanted to know how I viewed our future. I was convinced I was all right to be alone. I loved Allie, but I kept her at a distance emotionally. Up until that point, I had only said I love you to her once. I'd convinced myself I was grounded enough in myself that I was okay to live with or without her, or anyone else. She asked me, "Where do you see us going?" I knew that question was coming. I'd sensed its arrival for months. I'd thought through my answer based on all the work I thought I'd been doing, how grounded I was, how happy I was in my life, how I felt like I had everything under control. I said, "I see us proceeding as we are. I am happy being with you, and I don't choose to be with anyone else." She said, "I need more than this." I said, I can't give more than this right now. She looked into my eyes, hers brimming with tears, and said, well, I guess that is that. And then she got up and left. Poof, she was gone. I sat there with all that I thought was under control, that now was not. Here was my defense system in full force, keeping me safe. And I was alone again. Why? There's an undercurrent of pain tied to my relationships, all the way back to my childhood. Pain of not being seen, of not being worth it. Pain of trying to fit in and always feeling like I came up short. I learned to compensate with humor, oversharing, undersharing, arrogance, drinking, anything to create connection with people or artificially place me above or separate from them. I learned what worked and what didn't, and carefully knitted together a defensive cloak that held me separate and protected. I learned how to control my relationships and became selective with whom I could trust. Some of that was important. I was learning to create healthy boundaries as I became socialized into family and community. But I took it to an extreme because at certain points in this story, there were key moments of betrayal of my trust. So I built thicker layers of protection as I walked through life. I became more solitary and ever more selective of my friendships. My true romantic relationships followed a similar pattern, always controlled by how willing I was to let go and be vulnerable. My marriage was a sad story of two people trying to be seen and accepted by one another, only to have how we protected ourselves become exactly what pushed each other away. A few years before meeting Allie, I'd experienced a deep connection with a woman and felt compelled to risk the security of the fortress I'd built around my heart. Sadly, for mutual reasons, I was burned again, so I withdrew back into myself and focused on finding a way to be good with being alone. I experienced Allie's absence with calm at first. I convinced myself this had probably been inevitable. I went through my daily life trying to feel free and in control. Yet I was acutely aware of her absence. I had no desire to connect with or pursue relationships with other women. I attempted to convince myself that I was fine being alone, yet I felt a jolt of energy and a pull on my heart each time I drove near her home. Then one day, I woke up and realized something, and I have to say I wasn't very comfortable with the realization. I realized I felt safe with Allie. This was a foreign concept to me. I can still only remember maybe one other time I've felt emotionally safe. Now here I was in uncharted waters, wondering how to proceed. Looking back, I know what was happening in that room with Allie, and in every room before it. What I called being grounded enough to be alone was actually my armor. My quiet, constant posture of staying just far enough away that nothing could reach me. I know that what I called boundaries, the tests, the selectivity, the retreat the moment someone got too close, those were my shields, built one betrayal at a time, ready in an instant when real closeness became real risk. I also know that I didn't build any of it consciously. I built it wound by wound until I couldn't find the line anymore between the armor and me. I thought I was looking through a window, a thick glass shield, my own strength, my own choice to be fine alone, clear-eyed and grounded. I wasn't. I was looking in a mirror the whole time, mistaking my own reflection for the view. Yet I could no longer see myself. I just used two words to describe what was happening in that room with Allie. Armor and shields. I didn't choose them by accident. Let's stop there for a second, because once you see exactly what they mean, you'll start recognizing them everywhere in your own life, not just mine. Armor is the part that never comes off, the accumulated passive defense that formed itself over years in a threatening environment, one subconscious adaptation at a time. There was never a moment of deciding. You don't reach for it, and you never put it down, because it isn't something you are even aware is there. It's just how you move through life. Shields are different. They're active and specialized, deployed the instant something gets through the armor. Rage that arrives faster than thought. A shutdown the moment closeness gets real. Pulling away before you've even decided to pull away at all. And here's what makes them so relentless. Once one works, your brain stops waiting for the threat to show up. It starts firing the shield first, just in case, whether anything's really there or not. Both of them are protecting you from something real. It's not a flaw, and it's not a weakness. It's a real defense against a real threat. This week, consider your armor and shields. Don't try to take any of it off. That's not the assignment, and it's too soon anyway. I want you to catch just one moment, one time this week where the armor shows up or a shield fires, and you actually notice it happening while it's happening. Write one sentence about it. Not an explanation, and definitely not a fix. Just the truth. Start it with, what I've been calling just who I am might actually be, and then you fill in the blank. That's the whole assignment. You know what the armor is and what it's protecting you from. I learned that I was protecting myself with a thick glass shield. And here's the part almost no one tells you. Glass is supposed to be something you see through. If you live behind it long enough and it stops working that way, you stop seeing out. You stop seeing yourself. You only see the shape of what was built, and eventually you just call that shape who I am. Remember the wounded animal from the start of this episode? The one that couldn't tell a rescuing hand from a threatening one? That's not just something that happened to you once. That's still happening right now, every time you experience a perceived threat. Sometimes your ears are back and biting. Sometimes it's just a quiet step back you never noticed you took, defending against the one thing that could actually help. I know I have. Next time, we don't look for a way to take any of the armor off. Not yet. We just look for the man who's been standing inside it this whole time. You didn't build this glass shield. You became it. Until now. If today sounded like the glass you've been standing behind, the strength you never chose to build, you don't have to look at it alone. You can find me at yourcoretruths.com. If someone came to mind while you were listening today, that means something. Please send this to them. I'm Stephen Rohde. This is Course Correction.